So with Pokemon Legends ZA coming out sometime in the next decade, I assume, I've been trying my hand at 100%ing as many Pokemon titles as I can before the new game comes out. Now, notably, I've already 100%ed Pokemon X and Y, and I feel like through that experience, I was really able to fall into the lore, the storylines, the characters, the Pokemon, and honestly the region as a whole. But after 100%ing Kalos, something interesting happened as a weird result. With the serious depth of knowledge from X and Y that I'd developed in playing them to that extent, I was coming up with all these cooler and more lore-intensive theories, which honestly in my head points to one thing. Pokemon Legends Arceus, right? It only makes sense. Pokemon X and Y is set in Kalos, so is Legends ZA. Well, Pokemon Legends Arceus is a Legends game, and believe it or not, so is Legends ZA, probably. So listen, strap the hell in, because in this video, I am 100%ing Pokemon Legends Arceus. Playing through the entire storyline, past the first credits, all the way to Arceus herself, completing the Pokédex to its fullest extent, maxing out my Galaxy rank, and doing all 122 side quests that the game offers. So without further ado, let's get into it. The game kicks off and I'm greeted by a sparkly light and a voice. I'm thrown into a void, my phone falls out my hands and turns into an orb, and I'm embraced by God herself. Pokemon Legends Arceus. Arceus? I awaken to the sight of an otter, a very round bird, and a fire echidna. I'm welcomed by some guy in a funny hat. Then on the floor about 10 meters away, I pick up an arse phone that was literally bestowed upon me by a higher power. Onwards, I had to prove myself to the Mad Hat guy by catching his Pokemon, and once I'd captured all three, Laventon and I made our way back to Jubilife Village. So off the rip, I met some guy with a green beard and a precariously shaped mustache. He shunned me for being an outsider. I met my future ex-wife, and Cyrus's grandmother agrees to trial me for the Galaxy team in the morning. Laventon, Akari, and I share a meal, and when I go to sleep, a lightning bolt strikes a tree somewhere. Again, no idea what's going on. Anyway, I make my way to a place called the Galaxy headquarters the next day, and in the main room behind her presidential desk sat Silene, who wants me to catch Pokemon as my Galaxy cult team trial thing. I chose Rowlet as my starter and headed over to the main gate where Akari and some guy with a super broken face wanted to battle me. I sent the demon back from whence he came, but his face wouldn't solidify. And listen, I'm a pretty empathetic guy, but I don't trust a man with a holographic face. Heading on, in the Obsidian Fieldlands, Akari had me catch a Bidoof, a Starly, and a Shinx. And Akari was mind blown at my clear display of prowess, elegance, and skill. But, I have to say, if catching 3 PV Mons is all it takes to impress you guys, I'm not entirely sure that I want to join your little survey corps. You lot suck. But listen, they gave me my own little studio apartment and a dapper ninja outfit, so, I mean, I'm sold. I'm told this place has a lot of opportunity. It's just like my mum always told me, there's 2 words that will open a lot of doors in life: push and pull. Get it? Because doors. I went upstairs to meet a guy called Kamado, who's apparently the commander of this place, which is quite fitting considering his name. And to prove it, he physically assaulted me, a child, with no consequence. What a time to be alive. The good old days, am I right? Anyway, with all that in the rear view, mission 1 of 27 is complete. Not including the 122 side quests we're gonna have to do, of course. Right, hear me out. I'm not gonna dwell on absolutely everything that happens, because if we do, we'll be here for about 3 to 4 hours, and there's no way that I get this video out before Legends ZA. So with that being said, I crafted a few Pokeballs, and with that, my next mission is apparently complete. Laventon gives me a Pokédex, which is literally just a book, and I freaking love that. Some guy called Beauregard gave me a quest to catch a Wurmple, but listen, that's gonna have to wait. To save myself the headache, we're gonna be doing most, if not all, of the side quests later on in sequential order. For now, we focus on the main story. Akari teaches me how to do a parkour, and after putting it into practice, I ran around catching a bunch of Mons before speaking with Akari to go over my dex work. Then it was back to Laventon to report my progress, and since I hadn't explored enough and caught enough Mons to rank up, I did a bit more of that, and finally I was ready to start climbing the ranks, which just so happens to be one of the things I'm gonna have to complete entirely in this run anyway. Real quick, this video is super generously sponsored by a company that I back so much, AG1. AG1 is essentially a comprehensive and convenient blend of over 70 high-quality ingredients, all blended into a surprisingly delicious daily nutrition supplement. Listen, disregarding this sponsorship, I've been using AG1 for a long time in my personal life. Hear me out, my physical health is something that I used to take for granted. And the older I got, the more my immune system started to betray me. One of my friends told me about AG1 to help me boost my immunity, and I haven't looked back since. In addition to its benefits for your skin, your hair, your immune system, your gut health, your heart health, bro, the list goes on. AG1 provides nutrients that make sure that your energy levels are where they're supposed to be, with minerals like copper, chromium, phosphorus and stuff to help your body fully unlock the energy from your food. Bro, I will scream this brand's name from the rooftops. I'm saying it with chest because I freaking use it. The simplicity of AG1 really helps as well. They sent me out this super handy bottle, scoop and container to make it one of, if not the easiest part of my morning routine. Literally phenomenal, and I know I'm starting my day off on the best foot going into 2025. Trust me, you don't know what your body lacks until it becomes a a problem, so don't let anything become a problem. Do you know what I mean? If you can control it, you should control it. If you subscribe to AG1 now, you'll get an entirely free bottle of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Go to drinkag1.com/gentledude or click the link in the description to check it out, and I'm telling you, try it. Within a couple weeks, you'll seriously feel the difference. And that's coming from someone who actively bought this stuff before this sponsorship. But regardless, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the video. So I parkoured my way back to Silene, and she grants me my first star in the ranks of the Galaxy Squadron Corps cult. But hey ho, that marks the completion of my next mission, and things are looking pretty dandy. The next day we meet up with Akari at the training grounds, and after obliterating her mouse with my bird, meeting a 7'3" sensei woman, and leading back out into the wild to explore, I was confronted by that guy from before with the hollow face, but I guess he got that scene too because he's whole now. Maybe I can trust him after all. In the Fieldlands, a pretty lady named May and her gluttony bear challenged me to a fight, which of course I won with no issues, and after proving my worth yet again, she had me follow her to a nice little area that had been claimed by a rabid Delellywhoop, and so in common protagonist fashion, no, I need to pause and confess something here. Initially, this was done on stream, and since me and my community all fiend for shiny Pokemon, I decided that I'd play through the entire game using exclusively shinies. So for the literal entirety of the base game, I'm gonna stop and shiny hunt periodically, hence why this silly little video took so long. So listen, after back and forth and from village to Fieldlands just a ludicrous amount of times, I eventually found my real partner. Gosh, I'm sneaking. Yo! Oh! Whoa! Hold up! First outbreak! Are you serious? Yo! Oh my god, bro! What are the odds? Bro, yo! And trust me, I know it's got literally nothing to do with the 100% run, but I'm gonna include these shinies because, I mean, come on, they're shinies. I caught the Weasel, named it Coriander after a common Gentledude stream enjoyer, and finally made my way to train up my Piss Fox and take on a mustache bug. Except, after trying a bunch, I realized it wasn't gonna be that easy if I'm running this with only one single underleveled, color-deformed Weasel. So, back to shiny hunting it was! A hop, skip, and a decade later, I found myself another shiny. Wait! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, let's go! Business is being conducted. So listen, I went back to face the Tash Bug, and after using my much smaller, much more sickly looking Tash Bug to defeat it, Rudolph's granddad appeared atop a cliff. It came up, sniffed me, and walked off. With that, our next mission was officially complete. You smell that? That smells like progress. We set up camp, then made our way back to headquarters, where some ludicrously good-looking guy was grilling Kamado about a Cleavor that seems to be wreaking havoc on Adaman's side of town. He introduces himself, as does my new future ex-wife, and I think it's pretty clear that she's cheating on me with this guy. Regardless, I'm tasked with investigating Cleavor's manic frenzy, and so I spoke with Silene, Adaman, and May about where I need to go to risk my life for some strangers, and inevitably and invariably, I set off. That guy from before approached on my departure and gave me some free stuff, and it's looking like he's more friend than foe, but I still feel a bit iffy. Regardless, that's a future me problem. For now, I want to do a spot more shiny hunting. I know, you came here for a 100% run, not a shiny hunt. I'll make it quick, but this one's a doozy. Geodude wasn't my favorite Pokemon until I made Gentledude. I didn't even really like Geodude, and then I thought it'd be hilarious to make just a like gentlemanly Geodude, because they're always so aggressive and they don't have teeth. Wait! Yo! No way! Oh my god, that's full odds! Yo! That's full odds! Oh my god. So with the best Pokemon on this planet in my back pocket, it was time to approach the next mission. A cowboy with emphasis on the boy called Leon was awaiting my arrival by a big tree. We battled, I won, and he explained that the Lord of the Woods, Cleavor, just got broken up with, and so he's Hulk smashing everything in sight. Which would ordinarily be an issue, but it's made even worse by the sheer fact that Cleavor has axes instead of hands. Apparently we need to make an offering of its favourite foods, but we can't approach it because it's all angry, so I took that info back to the nutty professor who came up with the idea to make a projectile to quell his frenzy. That way I'm only sort of risking my life. I was granted the ability to use a flute to summon a moose, and so I used that moose to tell Leon the new plan. Sorry, I don't know why moose made me giggle. Of course I had to best my future ex-wife in the dance of battle to prove myself yet again, but with that through and the projectiles made, it was time to take on the frenzied Lord of the Woods. And I won't lie, I was locked in. I'm a freaking gamer, bro. I did my job. Cleavor got it out his system and the projectile food thing worked. I reported my near-death experience to Kamado, and we were officially one more mission down. Now, interestingly, back in the village, a little girl named Vessa told me about a broken vessel and the wisps that had escaped from it. Now, hear me out. This is a really cool mission to do with something that we're going to be doing much later, so hang tight. Right, skipping through some dialogue because I haven't been doing that even though I said I would. I beat up Akari again and made my way to the Crimson Mirelands, where I found myself in some type of ruinous cave where an adorable lady named Caliba was waiting with her bee barrel. Lo and behold, Mr. Handsome Hollowface came back and challenged me to a bout of fisticuffs, which I won, and after beating him, he told me of the stolen fragment of the tomb. It was important to Caliba and her people, so of course I set off to shiny hunt again, of course. Sorry, sorry, I know, sorry. After running back and forth for a little more than a little while, I managed to snag an honestly incredibly forgettable shiny to join the squad. An hour and 30 minutes to— Yo! As soon as I said it, there's a shiny Carnivine! Okay. Come here, you goof! Get in the ball! Yes! Shiny number 4 has been friggin' acquired! And so now with a team consisting of Calum the Geodude, Tobias the Kricketune, Coriander the Buizel, and King Boo the Carnivine, I found an abandoned campsite where, out of nowhere, I was confronted by a triage of sisters: Charm, Clover, and Coin. They call themselves the Misfortune Sisters, and I beat the crap out of the youngest one, Coin, before finding out that it was them who stole the wall fragment that Caliban was looking for. I retrieved it, evolved my Piss Weasel into a Piss Fox, and moosed my way back over to the tomb where Volo and Caliban were awaiting my return. I returned the fragment to its rightful home, and since I was able to complete this task, Caliban trusted me enough to challenge Ursaluna for its hand in holy matrimony, or whatever. I fought it, beat it, and Caliban cured it of its apparent poisoning with some kind of medicine that the Pearl Clan concocted. Regardless, now we've entered the right to ride Ursaluna, and with that, we're given the Earth Plate. Pressing on, it was high time I returned to the village, and upon doing so, I was greeted by a Carry who urged me to make my way to the Galaxy headquarters. I went in, spoke to Kamado, the green hair guy, and Adaman, and apparently they'd misplaced Arezu. The solution lies within me and Ursaluna, because of course it does. And so in heading back to the Marylands, I used Ursaluna to follow her scent. We found her, saved her, and Caliban showed up just after the nick of time. They said something about a frenzied Lilligant. Adaman showed up and told me to meet him at the Brava Arena. So once I'd got there, Caliban and Arezu showed up, and after a little chinwag, it was time for me to take on the Lady of the Ridge, Lilligant, in all her grace. And they didn't lie either. She's graceful as all crap. Lilligant, more like Ella. Oh, that was weak. I'm sorry. That sucked. Alright, so this fight was fairly straightforward. I threw some bams, dodged some hits, and claimed my victory first try, quelling her frenzy once and for all. She danced a happy dance, gave me my medal plate, and I could take my leave. Back at the camp, that dude Volo showed up to blow some smoke up my buttocks, and I won't lie, I'm starting to actually like this guy. Back at the village, that green-haired guy Benji seemed much more friendly than when we first met, but I wasn't allowed to eat without reporting my progress to the big dog upstairs first. So I did that, got my dopamine hit from a mission complete, and sat down to eat the most delicious-looking potatoes I've ever seen. Right, let's summarize. Arezu decides to move to Job Life. Kamado summoned me to the beach. We welcomed a bunch of outsiders in a way that was far from what I experienced when I got here. And we went back to the Galaxy Hall where my queen was awaiting my arrival. She needs my help, and I would die for her. The Peach to my Mario. The Amy to my Sonic. The Dawn or Misty or Lily or Iris or May or Serena to my Ash. First off, I spoke to Silene, who tasked me with going to the Cobalt Coastlands. But Leon showed up before I could leave, and he gave me some grit pebbles as a show of good faith. And off I popped to the not yet explored realms of the Cobalt Coastlands. Laventon brought his historically accurate camera to take some sweet selfies for the gram, but before we could go exploring, Irida played me a love song on her flute and challenged me to another dance. After wiping the floor with her Glaceon and her Eevee respectively, she entrusted me with all of her secrets and self-doubts. We're getting closer. Well, now it was time to do the unthinkable and evolve Calum into a Graveler, before catching a whole palette of new Pokemon, and before moving forward, chat told me it was high time I hunt for a new sparkly team member. That's a shiny Staravia! That's a shiny Staravia! That's a shiny Staravia! That is a shiny Staravia! I can see it, I can see it, I can— Yes! Yes! We found a shiny! Oh, my camera froze. That sucks. Go back to this though, because we just caught a freaking shiny. So, right after hours of hunting and a caramelized Staravia, it was time to make my way towards a place called the Lordless Island, where sins are committed. Once we got there, two distinguished gentle dogs and my future ex-mistress were awaiting my arrival. She told me I have a gentle face, which is super weird because it entirely shattered the fourth wall, but she also told me a tale of how the former Lord of the Isles, Arcanine, had passed away. She pointed me towards some guy called Iscan, so I found not Iscan, but Volo, who told me he's looking for some fine china, also known as Arceus fragments. I found Iscan and he was adorable. He asked me to save him from a ghost Cyclops, and Iscan, I can be your hero, babe. Sorry, I've got no idea where that came from. Anyway, I ran towards where the Clops was camping out, caught it, and sprinted back to Iscan. I showed him my Clops, and apparently we needed Clops to use Dark Pulse on some Basculegion food, and together Iscan, Paulina, and I summoned the ghost fish, and I fed it. It seemed to be pleased by that, and gave me the Splash Plate, and the ability to summon it at my leisure. The Misfortune Sisters pulled up, used their Gengar to steal a Growlithe, and now it's my job to take chase to Fire Spit Island. I got to where I needed to get, and on arrival, I made my way to the center point of an active volcano. And this time I had to fend off Clover and her Abomasnow, which was pretty easy, and then Coin and her frog again, so I took them down, and finally Charm was up. I took out her Rhydon and of course her Gengar, and the baby good boy came to shout at the bad guys for stealing the bigger good boy. And then, right, baby Growlithe evolved into a Hisui and Arcanine, and out of nowhere my guy got literally struck by lightning. So now I was being forced to run away. Irida came through, agreed to make some BAMs for me, and before we know it, we're thrust into battle with the Lord of the Isles, Arcanine. This battle battle was much more difficult than the other ones before, so, I mean, I lost. But the second round I managed to quell its frenzy. My guy pawed over the flame plate, and after hearing a distinct second Arcanine cry, we saw for one brief second an Arcanine atop the entire volcano passing down its blessing from above. It was a really sweet moment, and we all know what it meant. From here, we spent the rest of the stream shiny hunting, and something immaculate happened right before I was gonna end it. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, we got the EV. Oh, no way, no way, no way. No, 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 no. Please. Please, 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 please. Please, please, please. Please, 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 please. Yes! Sorry, I know that we're talking about something so depressing, but oh my god, we got the Eevee. Back in Jube Life, we paid Kimono Man a visit. He congratulated us on our efforts in the Cobalt Coastlands, and with that, the Lordless Island mission was rubber stamped. Laventon, one of my wives, and I sat down to share a meal, and it, seems the big dog caught whatever Volo had earlier. The next morning, I'm greeted by a mysterious sailor-looking fella, and he tells me that Camado's expecting me. Turns out, I need to go to the Cornet Highlands to stop an angry Electrode from being naughty and blowing up all over the place. So we're off to scale perilous heights to subdue the almighty upside-down Pokeball. We go to leave, Adaman challenges us to a battle outside the Galaxy HQ, we smack his bottom, Saline invites us back in to explain our mission in more detail, and apparently we're going to need some expertise to be able to navigate and survive the Cornet Highlands. So we head to the training grounds where Mr. Knows a Lot About Mountains guy was waiting for me. He's briefly introduced as Ingo, aka Electrode's warden. Hold on a second, I know this guy from somewhere. However, we wasted no more breaths and instead made our way to the infamous Highlands. When I got to a specific cave entrance, Ingo joined me. We made our way through said cave, and on the other side we saw the rift a couple of summits above us. Ingo and I had a heart-to-heart as he confessed that he just so happened to have also been chucked out of the sky by God with no memory of a past beyond that. We kept traversing until we arrived at some ruins that we needed to pass through, but Melee was blocking the entrance and they didn't let us through until I proved myself. So I smacked up a Skuntank and we were granted safe passage, eventually arriving at the bottom of a cliff. Warden Ingo asked me to battle him and his team of Machoke, Tangela for some reason, and Gliscor to earn the right to blow on his flute. Context is everything. Anyway, that summoned his 7-foot weasel friend who handed me a toxic plate and stuffed me into his backpack. This feels a little bit undignified, but hey, I can't fault it. We made it to the entrance of Electrode's Sanctuary, and there, the wet towel, aka Melee, was waiting for me and made me battle them again. But this time it was a 3v1. Melee is actually the worst, but like, actually, have you ever thought about that? There's 8 billion people kicking about, probably a bit less than Hisui in times, but the sentiment stands. And out of those billions of people, someone inevitably has to be the worst. Well, I found them. Anyway, we beat him, made haste, and Electrode rolled in, immediately launching his honing electric balls at me. I lost the first attempt. However, the second time round I managed to best it and calm it from its lightning-induced temper tantrum. Artemis evolved into a Sylveon, and chat voted on me doing a spot more shiny hunting, so I did. Oh my god, what? This is lunacy. This is lunacy. This is lunacy. You guys suck. Wait, 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 I heard it! Ah, please! No, 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 no! No, 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 no! That was stressful. I named the little guy Casey and made my way back to Jube Life, where Kamado gave us the old thumbs up, completing our 11th main story mission. The next day, Kamado tells us of the final frenzied Pokemon, Lord Avalugg. He explains that this one's the biggest of the bunch and will be the biggest adversity that I've faced yet. On my way out, I smooshed a carry in combat before heading to the Alabaster Icelands. My queen and her side piece did a flirt and apparently decided to run away together, and I decided to stay out of it and take my frustrations out on another shiny Pokemon, or 2. Whoa! Yo! Yo, 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 that was so quick. Oh, we're gonna get a shiny Golduck. How do we feel about that then? I mean, it is a shiny. There is a shiny on the screen right now. Massive! Shiny Psyduck is awesome. Shiny Golduck is disgusting. Do we? Interesting. Very... interesting. Casey evolved into Togetic in the process, and Kalum into a Golem. So now with a ragtag team of color-deficient Pokemon now upgraded and expanded, it was time to head back to the Alabaster Icelands. Adaman and Irida were waiting for me alongside Irida's senpai, Garrick. See, Garrick is Avalugg's warden, and after beating his team of Glalie and Frostlass, I was told to meet a young girl named Sabi, but I didn't have to because Sabi found me. After chasing her and her Braviary up a mountain, then up to a temple, she had me solve different puzzles to get through Snowpoint. When I finally reached her, she had me fisticuffs her team of Rhyperior, Magmortar, and Electivire. She ran away yet again, I evolved Henna into a Dusclops, chased after her again, and then I was finally able to take on Hisui and Braviary to prove myself to it. And after absolutely grilling the chicken, Sabi did a flute and we were given the Sky Plate and granted the ability to fly with Braviary. That was a freaking headache. Anyways, I took to the skies, picked up an Eternal Ice on some iceberg, got to where Avalugg lives, and Garrick was there awaiting my arrival. He used the Eternal Ice that I picked up on the way here to make some bombs for me to throw at an oversized coffee table. So, weapon of choice in hand, I approached the great beast, and its massive figure emerged from the ground. Avalugg's trial was honestly not all that hard. It was fun, I enjoyed it, but I didn't struggle as much as some of the others. A million BAM throws later, Avalugg's frenzy was finally put to rest, and the icicle plate was our prize. I went straight back to HQ to immediately tell Kamado the news. He tells me how amazing and handsome and hardworking and tall and buff and synonyms I am, and we check another mission off the list. Akari, Laventon, and I share another plate of potatoes before heading to bed, but this time when I wake up, something weird is going on. Something very peculiar indeed. It turns out that the sky was now covered by some sort of ominous green, blue, and red aura. The higher-ups of the town gather in Kamado's office, and turns out that even after you repeatedly save the place you live in, quelling all of the frenzied guardians of the land at these people's command, might I add, they still distrust you. Kamado dictates I be banished from the land in hopes of me being the root cause of the skies collapsing. Silene escorted me out and I was officially homeless. So I went in search of some help from the Pearl clan, but word seemed to have spread pretty fast and Leon refused to lend a hand since he's also convinced that this is all my fault. So I guess my next and last resort was to head to Warden May, and although she didn't expect that this was entirely my fault, she doesn't want to start a war with the Galaxy Corps by accepting me into the Diamond Clan. So with all hope pretty much lost, I was about to give up until I heard a very particular voice. Volo! My guy! He's a neutral, the Switzerland of people. He brings me back to Mistress Kogita, who can give me a place to stay while I'm a hot topic. Kogita escorts us into her tent and tells us of 3 lakes that are home to 3 different Pokemon who all represent a different aspect of the mind. She then explains that we need to go through each of their trials in order to receive some sort of gift from them, that once presented to the Shrouded Ruins will give us the red chain, because Kogita believes that with that we might be able to bind the world together, which, like, how the hell do you even know that? Girl straight up knows how to fix the sky. Regardless, it's not like I'm teaming with options right now anyway, so upon departure, Silene's Abra was waiting outside Kogita's tent. The Pokemon had a letter from Silene asking us to promptly put an end to all this madness. Ura and Adaman also show up and both extend their hand. I choose to kiss, I mean take Adaman along with me on my quest to the 3 lakes. Listen, don't judge me, it's complicated. But I made him wait because chat was mad at me for making this much progress without finding another shiny.
Well, that's a shiny stunky. That is a shiny. I don't know how I feel about that. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about a shiny stunky? We did find a shiny. A shiny is a shiny.
So with Stunky in pocket, I made my way to Lake Verity. In the middle of the lake, we met up with Volo and Adaman, and for some reason my phone started ringing, which somehow caused a cave to manifest from thin air. At least I know God's on my side. Inside was a seriously unsober Gudra who we managed to take down, and right after the battle, I started to get a weird feeling. Lo and behold, Mespera appeared. It used telepathy to ask me my view on the world I've ended up in, and after I answer, I'm awarded with a plume, one of the random inconspicuous things needed to forge the red chain. So I take my plume back to camp and checked in with Kogita before heading off to Lake Numero Dos. Acuity. Volo and Adaman were there again waiting for me to Ooga Booga an entrance to a mythical cave out of thin air using only an arse phone. But it worked! We were 2 for 2 and inside I was met with a very peeved Zoroark. We slapped it up, a Yuxi appeared, it gave me a claw. We got an Attaboy from Kogita and off we popped to the final lake. Inside we took down an Alpha Overquill and Az gave me a Fang. With a Fang, a claw and a plume, the obvious components of a chain, in hand, we made our way to the Shrouded Ruins where the Lake Guardians made another appearance. Since my mere mortal hands clearly weren't up to the task, they took the materials back and forged the red chain themselves. Then I went back to Jubilife to pass on the news that I now possessed the chain, and it turns out that Kamado had started to make his way up Mount Cornet in order to investigate the rift up close for himself. And in Silene's office we explain that we have everything under control, and being the teddy bear that she is, I'm reinstated back to my old rank, and bestowed the task of heading to Cornet's peak and mending the world. So I do just that and begin scaling Cornet, and on the way up we run into our old pal Benny, who seems to have fallen for the propaganda, and in turn challenges me to a battle in hope of thwarting the terror that I supposedly plan on bringing onto the world. Benny's character full 180s and he transforms into a ninja. I beat up his formidable team of Miss Magus, Sneasler, Gardevoir, and Gallade. And from here I was just a few steps away from reaching Cornet's peak, but instead of pressing on and doing whatever I can to stop the havoc that's been brought upon Hisui, chat decided that they hadn't had their fill of sparkles yet, so I had to go please them, I guess. Scuntag! Big Smelly! Woo! Stinky! I've not managed to get round to what I said. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Okay, we just got a freaking Hisui in form as our shiny.
Right, so back to saving the world, I got to the peak of the mountain and Kamado was there waiting to deny my entry. Luckily though, Adaman was there to fight my case. Kamado was willing to step down, but only if I can beat his team of Hisui and Braviary, Golem, Snorlax, and Clefable, which of course I did. Kamado let me through, Gumi evolved into Hisui and Sliggoo, and we gathered at the temple. Out of nowhere, the ground started quaking. Dialga rose from a black hole, my red chain started reacting, and somehow Dialga broke it. So as an act of vengeance, I forced the primordial deity Time Horse into a wooden sphere. And as I thought I was done and dusted, Dialga used some sort of telepathy to address Adaman, pretty much saying that we're far from the end. Right then, another black hole appeared out of thin air, this time summoning the mighty Banana Neck. Kamado pooped himself and urged us all to flee back to camp instead of taking the fight. At camp, we all reflected on Kamado's doubts. Apparently, Dialga and Adaman were having a secret telepathic dialogue, and so now we need to find the Stone of Creation's beginning, the Chain of Red, and the Vessel of Humankind's invention. Laventon asks me to pass him the plates that we'd collected throughout our journey, and apparently he'd found some scriptures on said plates that suggest that when the universe was created, these plates that were once parts of the Grand Creator were scattered around Hisui. And so to find this ore made of the same material as all the plates, we're set a mission to go find something. What? Laventon and Irida went off to grab Leon, who requested that we make our way to the Primeval Grotto, where we found some interesting glowing red ores. Before Leon was able to put his Pokemon to work and grab the ores, the Misfortune Sisters showed up out of nowhere. The outcasts challenged the leaders and I to battle, and as expected, we mashed them like potatoes. They left, we harvested the Origin ore, and after getting the whole gang back together, we made our way back to Jubilife. There, Irida handed what she could collect of the broken red chain to Laventon. I handed him the Stone of Creation, and Akari, being the talented craftswoman that she is, began to put everything together. Soon after waiting in the lobby, Laventon burst in with Akari's creation, the Origin Ball, which looks freaking sick! At the gate of Jubilife, Kogita was waiting to escort us up to the top of Mount Cornet herself. However, being the people pleaser that I am, I gave in to chat's peer pressure and decided to shiny hunt yet a freaking again, putting off the salvation of mankind. But this time it was for sure worth it.
The other one's down there. I don't know if I'll hit this. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. No, please, 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 please. Please get in the ball. Oh my god, there's a shiny EV. What on earth am I looking at? Oh my days, I caught it. I got a shiny EV. Oh my goodness. What the hell? That was not the point of this. What? So, I made my way back to Cornet's Peak, and on the way I bumped into Volo. What a supportive friend. We walked up to the podium to face Palkia, and as I went to yuck an Ultra Ball, it started to emit a mad glow. And before it could genuinely melt me, Dialga leapt to my safety. Palkia resurfaced in its Minotaur form, the one true haunts, and sparing no breaths, it was time to fight. I repeatedly threw bags of fairy dust in its face, and after besting it in battle, I threw my new fang-dangled Pokeball, and Palkia was mine. Immediately, the sky started to clear up, bringing Hisui back to some type of normalcy. Was it over? Hisui no longer seemed to be overshadowed by the ominous apocalypse sky, and the credits rolled. But hear me, we are far from done. An entire Pokedex, a bunch more missions, a confrontation with God, 122 quests, and maxing out my star rank. Let's get stuck in, shall we? Akari tells me we're gonna meet back in the Survey Corps office to discuss our next steps, and when we arrive, we see Silene and Laventon discussing the progress and importance of the Pokedex. We get interrupted by my future ex-best man, and he extends his knowledge about the vast legends surrounding the region of Hisui. From here, we're tasked to look into it, and so off we pop to a specific spot in the Obsidian Fieldlands, where young Master Volo speaks the name Arceus, and tells us of these plates that he believes hold the key to the cough cough Legends of Arceus! Oh my god, he said the thing. We follow Volo to the pond where Alpha Heracross usually kicks about, but in place of it, we're greeted by an incredibly hostile Queen Bee. She roars a mighty roar, and after using my Space God to overkill it, we obtain the stone plate, which feels a little bit out of place considering Vespiquen is literally quad weak to stones. Regardless, Volo tells tale of a place named the Ancient Retreat where my future ex-mother-in-law? That feels, I don't know about that one. It's where Kogita camps out, and apparently most of Volo's information comes directly from her. Now, Kogita tasks us with 5 separate missions, all correlating to different mythical plates. So, back in Jubilife, I was met with Kamado, who asked me to meet him at Prelude Beach, the very place I started this whole journey in the first place. When I got to the beach, my guy was dressed for war, head to toe in metal pajamas. He challenged me to battle, but this time, instead of physically assaulting me, it was of the Pokemon variety, which feels like a slightly more level playing field. I bested his pretty, honestly formidable team, and as a result, my guy handed me the fist plate, which I'm honestly not entirely sure how he got in the first place, and I'm not honestly entirely sure that this isn't just a regular brick, but I'll take it regardless. Onwards and upwards, my friends, to the Cornet Highlands. Polina and Irida seem to be having a proverbial willy swinging contest, but that's no concern of mine right now. I've got bigger fish to fry, or in this case, I've got bigger frogs to fry. Who trans a frog?
frog, right? I chose this one first because in the lava dome where Heatran lives, a lot of mud balls spawn, and I can use them specifically to confuse and catch it without a whole lot of issue. Now, in catching the lava frog, we acquire the iron plate, and now we're able to move on towards the mountains where the human embodiment of an onion and Calabar speak word of a Pokemon named Cresselia. And lo and behold, just beyond where they're standing, Cress is manifested. And this fight's super challenging and fun. Every time you're hit with Cress's attacks, your controls literally get entirely inverted. But once I've got the hang of it, I managed to catch what, in my opinion, is one of the best Pokemon designs to date. And with that, we obtain the Dread Plate. Next up was Snow Point Temple, where I got profusely lost, and after an obnoxious amount of searching, I realized that the place that I was looking for was directly next to the entrance of this place. Incredible, phenomenal, fantastical, magnificent, synonyms. Anyway, I find the wall that's literally built in Gigas' image, and once Adamant and Sabi come through and tell me of the great Pokemon who single-handedly crafted the very lands we walk on, and since I'm already in possession of the Iron Plate, the Icicle Plate, and the Stone Plate, the door bursts open for me, revealing a staircase that, when we descend, contains the beast itself, Regigigas. This time we're actually forced to battle in a more traditional way instead of my usual parkour catching. However, luck was in my favour apparently, since after lowering its HP enough, I yeeted one single Ultra Ball, and the Demigod was mine, along with the Blank Plate. Now, at this point, it was time to head on towards the 3 lakes of Hisui to do some more legendary hunting. Uxie was first, followed swiftly by Azelf and Mesprit, and interestingly, I caught them all in a sum total of about 4 minutes. In capturing the third of the lake trio as well, I'd managed to obtain the Draco Plate. So back at the ancient retreat, after reporting my progress to Kogita, she asked me to collect some wood for her. So I went to where wood is, found the wood, grabbed the wood, and brought the wood back to give Kogita my wood. In return for my sheer valiance, Kogita gave me the Pixie Plate, which she seemed to have taken very literally. She tells me that she's been using the Pixie Plate as, well, a plate. Pretty baller move to use 1/18 of God as eating apparatus. Either way, we meet with Volo at the foot of Snow Point, where we find a shattered statue of Palkia and Dialga. Volo then tells us of an infamous Pokemon named Giratina, and after claiming he feels its energy flowing through him, kinda sus, he tells us to meet him at the Temple of Sinnoh. We reach the peak, and there awaiting us was a very statuesque Volo, who turns to me and speaks under his breath. He reveals that in all this running around, all this danger, he has been the puppet master all along. That I, along with the Galaxy Core, were pawns in his game of chess. He had me collect the plates. He had me fight off all the legendary Pokemon, the alphas, the puzzles, all to reveal finally that the 18th and final plate that we're looking for was in his possession all along. And in an act of defiance to God, quite literally, Volo strips off his clothes, takes off his hat, and gels his hair all in the blink of an eye, which is freaking impressive if you ask me. And out of absolutely nowhere, my guy tells me he wants to subjugate the power of God to create a new and better world. I'm sorry, bruv. What? He forced me into battle, and I somehow managed to beat him along with his ludicrous team of Spiritomb, Roserade, Arcanine, Lucario, Togekiss, and Garchomp. Volo giggles to himself, and even though he lost, he knows the fight isn't over. The feeling he had at the foot of the mountain manifests. He feels an eldritch presence icing his heart. And in the coldest cutscene I've ever experienced within the confines of a Pokemon game, Volo laughs yet again to himself, entirely unencumbered and unflinching as a shadow manifests around him, and through a void of darkness, Giratina. Volo commands the beast to strike me down, and now we're locked in. The craziest battle scene was set. The music, the story, the setting, the feeling. And somehow through it all, we managed to take down Giratina. And as it was going down, in a second wind, completely unexpected and out of nowhere, Giratina enters a fit of rage, grows strong again, recalibrates, cocoons itself in darkness, and rebirths in its origin form. Who we now also have to take down with just the Pokemon who had survived the other 2 fights. So with literally one single shiny Carnivine remaining alive, I managed to take down the Antichrist. And Volo, dazed and confused, concedes defeat, hands me the final plate, the Spooky Plate, and with that, my Celestica Flute evolved into the Azure Flute. Volo takes his leave, and I look to the skies and see our final mission appear on screen, the deified Pokemon. I played the Azure Flute, but nothing happened, except a text that I received from my fairy godmother saying nothing but seek out all Pokemon, and with that, we're left pretty much to our own devices. However, there's still so much that needs to be done. Back in Jubilife, we're tasked with a mission to find and capture Giratina. Then, back in Galaxy Headquarters, Kogita was awaiting my arrival to tell me about the fabled genies, Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. I also then spoke with Laventon, who hands me the other 2 starters that I didn't choose at the beginning of our journey. And so from here it was off to Turnback Cave, where I captured Giratina, and laying in its place was the Grisius Core, the very item required to change Giratina's form. The next thing to conquer was the genies. This part was tedious, but fun nonetheless. The genies are notoriously hard to catch because of the way that they attack and the way that they scurry away. Tornadus only shows up during a blizzard in the Alabaster Icelands, and after resetting for the right conditions, this thing just kept smacking me on my ass, but eventually I did manage to catch it. Lando resides at the same island where you find Infernape, so once I'd caught him too, Thundurus was in the water in the coastlands. Things to note: 1. Be patient. Resetting for these things can take a whole lot of attempts and a whole lot of time. And friggin' 2. Bring smoke bombs. They make the actual encounters and catches just so much easier. Now, with the genies in pocket, we weren't quite done with them. We need to get the respective research levels up to 10 in order for Kogita to be happy enough to let us progress. It did take a second since you have to do a lot with him, but once I'd completed all tasks for all 3 genies, I could report back to Mistress Kogita and relay my findings. And out of thin air, Kogita reveals that the 3 genies that we've all come to know and love, who by the way came into existence a canon 15 years ago, have a freaking sister! Bruv, what? Enamorous, on her love cloud, floats down, reveals herself, and floats off like Lakitu. Anyway, we find her in the Mirelands, and after a pretty ferocious domestic battle between her and her brother, I managed to catch her. But again, I need to get her dex entry to research level 10 to please Kogita, so with that complete, we could go back to Kogi and she'll hand us the reveal glass, the very item that allows the genies to change forms. And so now, in their Therian forms, we've got Thundurus the Cloud Ape, Tornadus the Peacock, Landorus the Tiger, and Enamorous the Sleep Paralysis Demon. Now, the phrase seek out all Pokemon is something that I've put off until this point, but it's about time that I tackle that. In order to complete the mission, we have to, well, seek out all Pokemon, believe it or not. I scoured the land, catching literally every single Pokemon you can catch. And I won't lie, bro, I had more fun with the Oak Challenge in PLA than I have in any game before it. It isn't as monotonous as the others. There's interesting tidbits, Pokemon that require specific conditions to spawn. Of course, some more tedious than others. There were the Rift Pokemon, the different areas, the terrains. It was overall really a fun experience. Now, unlike my video beating every Pokemon post-game, I won't delve too deep into the dex work, but I do want to touch on 2 specific Pokemon that are interesting: Spiritomb and Unknown. So, remember that girl from way earlier called Vesa, the one with the odd keystone and the wisps and stuff? Well, now's the time to explore that. I purposefully didn't touch the wisps until now so that I could do it in one fell swoop. I travelled the entire region of Hisui collecting every single wisp there is, amounting to 107 separate wisps in total. And once we'd collected every single wisp, Vesa brought to us a strange rock in the dead of night. Now, if you know Spiritomb and its lore, you'll know that this Pokemon is a culmination of 108 lost souls, but as of right now, we only have 107. And Vesa knows that fact too. And she asks us to close our eyes, and when we reopen them, Vesa is nowhere to be seen. In turning around, one single final wisp floats alone by the strange rock, and once we collect it, the odd keystone disappears. A voice echoes in the wind and thanks me for playing along, and follows up with, "Please don't forget about me." When I turned around, who else but Spiritomb to be sat exactly where Vesa stood before? That storyline blew my freaking mind! And with that, I caught myself the Spiritomb. Next up was Unknown. These guys are scattered around Hisui in the most obscure and ridiculous places in a really fun game of Where's Wally. In the end, I managed to find and capture all 28, and with those 2/29 Pokemon in the bag, I was finally ready to head to the peak of Spear Pillar to once again play the Azure Flute. I ran to the top, got out my flute, played it immaculately with zero training or practice, and out of nowhere, a glowing staircase manifested from nothing, and I knew it was time to meet my maker. The very one who stripped us of our world and spat us out here in the first place. I climbed the never-ending staircase to the edge of the stratosphere, and at the top was a platform that was shaped in a very specific yet familiar pattern. As I was absorbing this place and its mystique, the camera pans, and from nothing came Arceus, the god of all Pokemon, here to disintegrate my phone and beat me to a pulp, again and again, until eventually I bested God itself and it spoke down to me that I had brought it joy. It thanked me and bestowed unto me a part of itself. Strangely, I opened my eyes and I was back at the top of Spear Pillar, where my missions were officially complete. Except, no they weren't, because there's literally still the best part of 122 side quests to do. The game that keeps on gaming. Well, let's get into it, shall we? For sanity's sake, I'm gonna brush over these missions, unless I find something that I'm particularly interested in sharing for one reason or another. But listen, if you haven't bothered with these side quests, you really should. In doing them, you get to see Pokemon in a whole different light. Pokemon that you might not bat an eye at or care about at all, are given interesting and lore-accurate storylines and mannerisms that honestly, in my eyes, bring a lot of them to life in a way that I never expected. Look, I'll show you. So first things first, remember that Wurmple that Beauregard asked me to get him like a month ago? Well, it's about time I help him out, I think. I went out, caught one, brought it back to him, watched him deliberate and call it Beauty Fred, and hey presto, mission complete. I'll skim over a lot of the missions like this that aren't as interesting, but we can dig a little deeper into the more interesting ones. We've literally got over 100 of these things. I had to craft a Pokeshi doll, tell a girl about a Magikarp, I had to show a lady a Starly, grab a Shinx for some guy who wanted to know about its ears. Then, right, there are these missions periodically where we have to pop a bunch of Drifloon balloons, and it makes for a super fun and challenging minigame. There are even shinies in this worth extra points. I will say though, in comparison to the later versions of this game, this one is easy as hell. Anyway, I had to give up a ground type Pokemon to help a guy plow a field, and one thing I honestly love is that these missions actually expand the town and make it bigger and more industrious. Next, I spoke with a lady called Pyra, who's afraid of something called the Will-O-the-Wisp. So I made my way to the spot she talked about at the time she told me to go, and the Will-O-the-Wisp turned out to be a chimchar chilling at the top of a tree. I caught it, returned to the village, showed her the fire monkey, and that was that. I had to show Netta a Finneon. I had Bellamy measure my compatibility, which was just as simple as talking to him. Someone called Sanqua's house was haunted, so I went in to see what was up, and it turns out after running around chasing different sounds, it was a Pichu. A very specific Pichu that Sanqua met once in a forest who must have followed her home. It gave her some berries, and they became friends. I had to find and retrieve a Petalil for someone called Shinnon to overcome a fear. Then I had to do the same thing, but with a Glameow for some guy called Asabe. In the village, there are these three people arguing about what a Burmy is, so I had to go out and find a Burmy of each form to show them that they're all correct in their own way. But on my way back from the final Burmy, the game decided to bless me with another random shiny Geodude, so, I mean, that's cool. I showed them the Burms and the mission was complete. I had to find specifically a 2'8" Buizel, so I found one and brought it back to the village for some guy named Dorian, who had a small Buizel but wanted to see a big one. I gave a kid some Pokeballs, gave a guy some mushrooms, and the next mission was actually lore accurate. I had to go to Prelude Beach in the evening where a Drifloon wouldn't let a kid leave. I saved the kid, and if you know Drifloon's dex entries, you'll know why that was specifically ridiculous. I had to run around the village and find some stray Bidoof, which was easy enough, show a guy a Zubat to prove that it has no eyes. I had to catch a Silcoon and a Cascoon to prove to Beauregard that they're different Pokemon. I had to complete Krikitot's Pokedex page, bring specifically a Geodude to Radisa to help her make things. I had to give a guy some cherry berries, give someone else some orange berries, and then it was time to display my skill on a moose and pop some more Drifloons. I had fun with these ones. I had to get Cherrim's research level to 10, and then it was time to get a free shiny Pokemon. There's a mission on the chalkboard called A Peculiar Ponyta, and when I go off to the Fieldlands, I can go to a specific spot, and hey ho, there's literally just a shiny Ponyta waiting for me. After catching it and reporting it to the person who asked about it, we were clear. The next one was cute. Mr. Mime sets up these invisible labyrinths so that we have to navigate them a few times, and I won't lie, it took me a sec, but we did get through it. I had to show Anth a male and female Hippopotas so she could compare them, then we can start tackling the missions for the photographer. He wants me to catch a specific Pokemon, so I catch a bunny rabbit and he seems happy enough. This nice lady wants to see a Rosalia's complete dex entry, which I just so happen to already have. Then we can take on one of the missions that make this map far easier to navigate. In this instance, there's a collective of stinky cats stopping us from setting up another camp. So once I had a Garchomp obliterate them, it was time that we set up a new camp and the mission was through. We had to help out some very burdened Psyduck by getting some secret medicine from back at the Galaxy Hall, which feels kind of familiar. I had to give some guy a Parasect, I had to give some nurse a Krogunk, then for whatever reason I had to find specifically a Pachirisu to defeat an Ursaring. So I caught the Alpha and that pretty much did the trick. I needed to catch a Tangela for this gal, and I hate these missions, but I have to find Zeke's sister Wanda. This is the first time that we're gonna do it, but I promise you it's not gonna be the last. So right, I have to find Zeke's sister Wanda because she wandered off somewhere, ha 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 comedy. And eventually I found her deep in the Gapejaw bog, and I'm sure that's the only thing. I had to go into a swamp and defeat a hippo for this guy, then the farm needed me to give them a water type to expand. Luckily for them, I had water types to spare. I needed to go get Pop Pods for Tao Hua, but I just bought them, so I mean, that was easy. The photographer wanted me to show him another mysterious Pokemon, so I went and got him a Duskull, and that seemed to do the trick. Anth wanted to see a male and female Shellos respectively, and again, I just so happened to have them both on hand. Easy peasy cake. Next, to set up another Coastlands camp, I had to find a guy and save him from a Chatot of all things, and once I'd done that, we were all set. Next up was another balloon popping endeavor, which of course I nailed first try. This guy couldn't get his Eevee to eat, so I had to give him ingredients to make some sort of muffin. Then I had to chase a raggedy group of Apom until eventually I had to fight them, but that was easy enough. This guy wants to chop some roses for his love interest, and he needs specifically a Scyther to help him do it, so I brought him one, and I guess he got what he wanted. Now, interestingly, that Eevee that we fed earlier went missing, and in the Galaxy HQ, there randomly appears an Umbreon. Long story short, turns out that Eevee ran away and evolved all on its own, and we reunited the old fella with his partner. Radisa wanted to see Octillery's dex entry so she could learn about its ink for some reason. I had to give some guy a Sootfoot root, a springy mushroom, and a Hawpo berry, in return for a super weird thing called a swap snack. I fed a poor hungry Piplup, then I had to show Mr. Bosley a complete Machoke dex page so he knows how to get one for himself, which he pulls off. For the taste of honey, I had to catch a Combi in very specific areas so that this guy could taste the differences in their honey. Then, yet again, Wanda wandered off. I found her eventually somewhere random in the Cobalt Coastlands. Arazu needed some hair inspo from specifically a Mischievous, which again, I just had on hand. I had to give the farmer guys another Pokemon, give Tao Hua some crunchy salt for Choi. The photo guy wanted a Turtwig, Anth wants a Wormadam. I showed Ward a complete ghastly Pokedex entry, then to set up another camp, I had to reunite a Bronzor with its estranged lover. Right, so, interesting one. This mission is called The Sea's Legend, where I have to go to the Cobalt Coastlands, and specifically in the evening, I need to go to the big claw-looking thing to then hear a very peculiar Pokemon cry, and once I've done that, I can go to a very specific cave. As soon as I get there, boom, a Manaphy and its cult of not quite Manaphy's. After a few attempts, I managed to catch a few of the Fiones and the Manaphy, and and we were good to report back with a mythical in my pocket. If you go to a specific spot by a specific pond at a specific time during a full moon, you can see the marvel that is the Clefairy Moon Cult full moon ritual, and it's freaking adorable. We watch him dance, and that's a mission complete. Someone called Gully couldn't navigate a cave, so they needed a schnoz to act as a sentient compass. Wanda wandered again, and I found her again. I gave Anth some shards. Choi had me give some sand radishes to Tao Hua, and the nurses in the Galaxy HQ needed 100 medicinal leeks, which I thought would be hard, but apparently they're literally everywhere, so I mean, I just kind of handed them over. A lady called Pippa needed help defeating an enraged Abomasnow, which Ablissy came and healed out of the kindness of its egg. And right, hold on here, mission freaking 36. This entire freaking time, I had to skip over mission 36 because it wouldn't show up on the freaking board. And online, be it Reddit or YouTube or whatever, nobody could answer what triggers it to show up. Genuinely, so many people had the same issue, but for some reason, it's just not there until it is. And now it is, so cool. It was as simple as activating it off the board and using a water move to water a tree. And once I'd done that, we were through. I was so worried that I wasn't even going to be able to complete this challenge on a technicality, but it's cool. Mission 36 is behind us. Arizuna wanted a Curlia, which I gave her. Then I actually wanted to talk on this one. You need to use specifically a swinub to help Moral sniff out some wild mushrooms, and if you didn't know, pigs were used back in old Europe to sniff out truffle mushrooms. So seeing Swinub do that and knowing it's actually realistic that back then in Hisuian times that might actually happen, I don't know, man, it was cool. I like Swinub even more now. Wanda wandered again. I found her again, and at some point you just need to ask why she keeps running away. We had to reunite some guy with some other guy in order to build an Iceland's camp. Then it was on to more balloon bursting, and I'm telling you, bro, these are a lot of fun and they get freaking hard. I gave Radisa a bunch of stuff for her to make pickles. One of those lads back at the Iceland's camp had hypothermia, so I gave him a fire horse and that seemed to heat him up a bit. In following a couple of Snorunt, I managed to floor a Frostlass and piece together a journal entry answering questions about Hisui's distant past or something. Some guy lost a bunch of Alolan Vulpix, strangely, so one by one I found, like, loads of them for him. Then this Bergmite enthusiast wanted to see a complete Bergmite entry, so I ran about and caught a bunch of them and bing bang boom, mission complete. The next one was super cute. There's an old lady who's bothered by a Chimecho who chooses to live on her porch, so she asks me to try and help it relocate. Chimecho and I searched for different potential spots to call home, but in the end, the old lady says in its absence, she realizes that she's grown fond of the Chimecho's chimes and misses the sounds of it. So in the end, it goes back to living with her in harmony. Adorable. Right, so Wanda wanders off yet again, but this time Zeke runs off to find her, and it turns out that Wanda was here all along. So now I need to go to the Icelands to find friggin' Zeke. This family, man, I'm telling you. I found him in a super inconspicuous spot, literally under the ground, and I guess that was that. Some dude wanted me to chase his Spheal who rolled down a hill, so I chased it to the bottom, and hey ho. Mission 88 was as simple as beating a Lucario in battle at the training grounds. Next up, in the Diamond Clan base, Adaman wanted to see what's in my heart, aka he wanted to battle me. I beat up his Leafeon, his Umbreon, and his Vaporeon respectively, and Adaman gives me the Adamant Crystal, which turns Dialga from a regular old boring normal stinky smelly basic bland flat stale time pony to an elegant refined dignified handsome opulent sumptuous debonair distinguished swanky time horse. Then we had to go to the Pearl Clan base to do the exact same thing with Ira and her Glaceon, Espeon, and Flareon, and she gave me the lustrous Globe, which turns Palkia from a space banana into an armless Minotaur. Now, the next part I had to Google to figure out because I had absolutely no idea this was a thing. But the next mission, a token of gratitude, would only appear available if I had a Sword and Shield save file on the same Switch, which, at the time, I didn't. So I made one, and hey-ho, the mission showed up. I went to the Obsidian Fieldlands where someone called Medi told me of some flowers that she'd once seen called the Gracidia. From here, I ran over to the spot where the dead flowers and the Beautifly hang out. Medi yelled her gratitude, and the flowers suddenly all bloomed simultaneously. And in the field now roamed an adorable grass hedgehog, which I caught without any trouble, and now we have a shaman of our own. The same thing happens for this next mission. I needed a brilliant diamond or shining pearl save file for it to show up. The Darksome Nightmare. 3 guesses who this one's about. Anyway, I had to head out to the Clamber Claw Cliffs and sleep till nighttime. Then, once I made my way to the place, the big dog was just there, waiting to scrap. The fight was a bit messy, but I eventually got the hang of Darkrai's mannerisms, and before too long, I managed to capture it in a heavy ball. A dude with a soul patch came through and thanked me for my good work. The next mission for me is super interesting, and super important if you want a shiny alpha Pokemon. Firstly, we need to fly over to Romana's Island, where apparently Maze Munchlax knew there was something afoot. Turns out the place had been infested by a whole army of Zorua, and when I reported back, Maze Munchlax had multiplied, except not really. After reporting back to Cylene, we got our mission rubber stamped, and May ran in to let us know that our Munchlax can sense these outbreaks. Apparently there was lots of them happening simultaneously, so our next mission is to head back over to the Fieldlands where there's a bit of a rainstorm going on, and Munchlax has recognized that there's like a million outbreaks going on all over the place, so apparently I need to clear 3 of them in the name of science. I was seriously hoping that I'd find another shiny here, but it's whatever. I didn't find any sparkles, but I did manage to clear the outbreaks. First Spheal and Celio, then Kricketot and Kricketune, and finally Starly. I reported my findings back to May, she rubber stamped to my mission, and Caliba came through to tell me she'll be waiting for me back in Arazu's hairdresser. Apparently there's more outbreaks happening in the Mirelands, so now we have to repeat that whole process again. To save you time, I cleared 3 more here, and as you'd expect, all of the following missions are literally the exact same thing in different areas. However, with all those cleared, Adamant and Irida come through. We all talk about the future and what it might hold, like I'm not from there. And we all watch the sunset over a grateful universe. Sorry. Back in Jubilife, Ingo brings me to the training grounds to tell me that they have a whole new set of battles for me to take on, and sadly that's part of completing every mission. But not yet! First I had to go and KO an Alpha Onyx for some guy. I had to fight Rest, the guy who guards the gate, and his team of the most ludicrously overpowered baby Pokemon I've ever encountered. His Bidoof almost KO'd my Origin Dialga, then his Shinx actually did, and his Starly almost killed my Heatran. I don't know what man's been feeding his children, but that was nuts. Then it was off to run the final balloon popping mission there is, and I'm telling you bro, this one was crazy. You need to pop 40 in a certain amount of time, and for whatever reason, I couldn't do it. I failed so many times before I finally actually completed it. Listen, if you've managed to pop every balloon in this one, you're a freaking gamer. Righto, so now I had to take on and best Adamant in a battle using exclusively Origin Dialga, which I managed to do. Then I had to do the same thing with Irida, beating her with only my Origin Palkia. Then I got scammed. I had no idea this was even gonna happen. I was just minding my own business, right? About to go for the final set of missions, and I was stopped by literally God summoning me to the heavens to test my strength and progression. But my team still literally consisted of just Palkia, because I'm just now coming back from the Irida thing, so needless to say, I got absolutely sloshed, and I never got the opportunity to give it another shot with an actual team. Listen, I'm mad at that, but it's whatever. Now, the next missions are called the Path of Solitude, where there's pretty much one specific way that the game wants you to beat specific battles against specific Pokemon using specific Pokemon. So, let's graze over them. One thing to note though is that you're gonna need grit items, and lots of them. Effort level 10 across the board is pretty much a prerequisite to even having a chance at these Solitude battles. For Bidoof, you're up against this Eevee who pretty much smacks you up with baby doll eyes and quick attacks. My answer was to Swords Dance one time and use Crunch. I had to teach Eevee Mimic to mimic a Zoroark using Snarl, that way we actually have a move that can kill it before it kills us. With Wormadam, I pretty much leveled it to the moon and iron-headed until I won. With Abra, I needed to fight Mr. Mime, and it wants to mimic, so I pretty much force it to mimic Teleport so that Abra's completely free to Shadow Ball it to death. The Blissey fight took a while to understand, but essentially I just needed to spam Soft Boiled and let the Snorlax KO itself. With Magikarp, we needed specifically an Alpha, fully effort trained to survive 2 self-destructs from a particularly angry Electrode. With Rotom, you need the Fridge, then you can pretty much just use Blizzard to KO a Garchomp. Against the Blissey, it pretty much just spams Self-Heals and Draining Kiss, so I spammed Iron Head and eventually knocked it out. With Roselia, you're up against a Staravia, but simply enough, you can poison it with Poison Powder and KO it with Venoshock without too much issue. With Sneasel, it's a mix of Ice Shard and Ice Punch to KO a Gligar before it can KO you. And with all those done, I spoke to Garrett, who stamped every single Path of Solitude mission that I'd done, and I was ready to be done with this, but he literally just gives you 5 more. Let me not bore you too much. I did them all, and that marks the end of that. I get how this could be fun, but for me, this was tedious as all hell. But that marks literally all 122 side quests. And with that, all that was left was my pesky star rank. So all I did was play Legends in my spare time, catching mons, doing my thing, and reporting to lab whenever I was done. Until eventually, I'd gotten enough to speak with Silene and get my 10th and final star. Meaning, I was complete. I'd done it. What a journey. What a game. Pokemon have made some cool freaking spin-offs. You know what I'm talking about. Pokemon Ranger, Conquest, Mystery Dungeon, etc. But this game was phenomenal. Chef's kiss. I don't know, man. I think this game genuinely might be the most immersive Pokemon game to date. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I'll catch you in the next one.